Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about an important truth that angels confess to newly arrived spirits. Let me tell you what's going on. So this is us, we're here. And this is where we're hanging out. Maybe there's a couple of us. We got a friend. We're partying, we're watching YouTube, we're in the world. When your body dies, your spirit leaves the world and heads first into the world of spirits, which is a beginning phase, kind of a halfway point between the pleasure of good in heaven and the pleasure of evil in hell. And there we sort ourselves out and figure out where we want to go. So if we choose the life that makes heaven, which is essentially a love of doing constructive things, having that be the most important thing in life and accepting that goodness as it comes from God, as we'll talk about in a second, end up in heaven. So a newly arrived spirit, this is us in just a little while. We, let's say, after a very long and very full life where we all win 20 Nobel Peace Prizes, we die and end up here. There's something that angels are going to tell us that's really important if we're ever going to make this trip to become angels ourselves. Oh, sorry, I just knocked over an angel. Sorry about that. This is in Secrets of Heaven 2016. Swedenborg starts by saying, to return to the main point. The main point. It is an invariable truth that everything good and therefore everything true comes from the Lord. This is the main point of today's talk. This is the main point of like the last 3 episodes that we've been doing. Everything good and therefore everything true comes from the Lord. You probably know goodness from people doing good things. That's good. That's good that was done. You probably know truth from realizing, oh, that's how things work, or you've been taught every bit of that. Every true idea, every good impulse originates in God. God is literally radiating that out like the sun, just goodness and truth all the time. And that's the main point. Angels are aware of this truth and even perceive that so far as a thing is from the Lord, it is good and true. And so far as it is from themselves, it is evil and false. Hey man, that sounds a little judgy. You're gonna call me evil and false? No, I'm not calling you evil and false. Angels are calling themselves evil and false. Because an angel is like the pinnacle of morality, human morality. Angels are people who have gone through the process of regeneration and end up, these are the most loving, amazing beings you could ever encounter. When people have near-death experiences, other spiritual experiences, they come across these angels, they call them beings of light, and they say, this person's awesome. They're so good, they're so kind. You never met somebody as virtuous as this. Here are angels saying, hey, I've got to tell you something. Everything that's good or true, everything you see in me that makes me seem like I'm better than you, that's coming from God. Everything that comes out of my selfhood or my ego, yeah, angels still have that, although it's not active like ours are, is evil and false. They confess as much to newly arrived souls and doubtful spirits. We get here and we're trying to figure out, hey, how do we get to heaven? How do we get to that state of mind that is heaven? What do you got to do? And the angel says, well, you've got to understand what goodness is and what truth is, and understand that it's not a competition. It's not who can be more righteous or who can be better. It is about understanding that this comes from God. It's a cooperative game. It's not a competitive game. There's these little board games that I play with my daughter, and the competitive ones are stressful because am I going to lose? Am I not going to lose? Life is stressful when it's competitive. But when you understand that morality is not competitive, there's peace in that. The truth is, and angels are eager to tell people who don't get what heaven is, part of heaven is understanding that I'm no better than you. The good stuff that's coming through me, all this splendor that you're seeing, it's from God. This is God's stuff that God is putting into me. What is more, they admit that it is the Lord who withholds them from the evil and falsity they themselves supply and maintains them in goodness and truth. His actual withholding of them and his actual inflow into them are perceptible to them. So part of being an angel is you absolutely have a great heart. Like you love the people that are around you, and you love doing what's right. You love building important things that benefit the human race. You love being fastidious and doing the right kind of work. Everything that you love is good. And you can see the world as it really is. You can see life as it really is. You understand incredible things. You're incredibly smart and wise and all that. And you can feel that the reason life is so good is because God, who is the source of everything good and true, like this equivalent of the sun sitting in the sky, is just showering that goodness and truth on us. And at the same time, he's holding you back from slipping into your old bad habits or old self-centered tendencies. And when you're in the angelic state, you can tell that. But those of us who may be watching this video right now saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Goodness and truth comes from God. That sounds like you're just saying a bunch of words that don't make any sense. Like I think thoughts that are accurate sometimes. I do things that are good, but it's just me sitting in the room and I think them up and I feel them up. It doesn't seem like there's any of this inflow that you're talking about. What are you even talking about? That's okay. That's actually how we are supposed to feel, or how we can't help feel. Ing. The reason we imagine we do good deeds on our own and think true thoughts on our own is appearances. Appearances comes up all the time in Swedenborg. It is really at its core just things are not how they seem. Especially when you start talking about spiritual reality and the nature of God. But even just physically, does the sun rise or not? Looks like it rises, doesn't really rise. There are all kinds of things that seem a different way than they are. So there is this appearance that God's not in the picture. God's not in the picture. That the goodness, morality, and God are separate. You could just take morality, you wouldn't even need to know if God was there. That's how it seems because we lack any perception or any clarity about inflow. So we base our conclusions on appearances and even on illusions, from which we refuse to be delivered as long as we believe in our senses alone and use their evidence to figure out whether we have autonomy. So you cannot reach the conclusion that God exists and that God is the source of goodness and truth, that God is working with us in our lives to move us towards what is good, that God is caring for us, healing us, to make us into the angels that we're destined to be. You can't tell that. You can't tell that by looking around the room. That is why there is a need for us to be told that this is true. You have in this story angels telling newly arrived spirits that it's true, but for the rest of us who maybe haven't left our physical bodies and don't get angelic experiences, you get told that through revelation, through the word, through divinely inspired things. You get told this idea, goodness and truth come from God. And once you know it, I'll speak for myself. Once I heard that idea, oh yeah, I can see it now. It's obvious. If you're like me and things are really hard for you to do, I'll be working on some project or even like trying to figure out how do I make this Swedenborg quote into a good presentation here. I'll be just trying to think of it. I don't get it. And then some idea just pops into my head. Oh, yeah, I never would have come up with that. There it is. You can be trying to give me patience here, or help me stop being so cranky, or give me this love, and then it pops in. Things come in, things flow through. It's true. You know, J.K. Rowling, the woman who wrote Harry Potter, I read this interview with her one time, and she said the character of Harry Potter just like walked in pretty much fully formed to her head. The Beatles, their best songs, they wrote them in like 15 minutes. If you do creative work especially, you can see things flow in. Acknowledging that goodness and truth come from God. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. There's plenty of people who don't believe that, and it's fine. God is still there, loves them, trying to give them the happiest life they can have. But the happiest life, the life that's called heaven, that comes with this acknowledgement. And there's a particular way you've got to acknowledge. Because you can't just say, okay, God's doing everything, I'm nothing. Yet even though this is so, we still ought to do good and think truth, as if we were doing it on our own. There is no other way to reform or regenerate. So you don't just say, everything good and true is from God, I'm going to go take a nap, God, do all the goodness and all the truth. The process we have to go through is, you're sitting here in the world, and there is a cornucopia of possibilities and options available to you. I notice I can treat this person this way, I can go do this thing. They all feel different. And the way that we form a partnership with God, the partnership with God that makes heaven, is for us to, when something of God comes through, so God's nature being the inspiration to do good to someone because that is good, and to wish well to everyone that exists, and think about how can I put my efforts toward doing what is good for everyone. When that comes in, and it's sitting there competing with all the other urges to just like check out or make fun of someone, when we say, no, I want to do that, I want to do what's good, and we, especially if we understand that that comes from God, and then we participate. We put in that effort to say, everything else is trying to get my attention and my energy. I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to put in whatever effort is necessary to break down the barriers or to do the work to get this to happen, that I'm going to champion this thing and make it my own, even if I understand, especially when I understand that it comes from God. Then there's a partnership. Then it becomes part of us. Why do you think the angels were so interested in telling these spirits, look, this is the truth. Goodness comes from God. Because when you get into the state of heaven, when you have that partnership with God, you are happy. That is happiness. It's peace. You don't worry about where life is going because you know that God is taking care of it. You don't have animosity towards other members of the human race because you love them like God does, and you understand that they are struggling when they're struggling, and that when they're doing well, it's because God is giving them the means to do well. All the things that bother us, all of the worries and the anxieties and the fears and the misconceptions about life are gone, and in their place is this deep sense of purpose and deep sense of joy. It's the best mode of existence you can have, and part of it is you want everyone to have it too. When you're as happy as you get to be in the angelic state, what you want to do is bring other people into it. And the way that you bring people into it, in part, is to let them know, look, there is one goodness. There is one truth. We tap into that. It's not who's better, who's worse. It's let's all get together and acknowledge and participate in this amazing thing that is God. And this is something that you can be doing right now. Even though our bodies are in the world, our spirits can be in heaven at the same time. You can be walking around, but yet acknowledging that everything good and true comes from God, letting that goodness and truth be God to you, meaning when it comes in, what do you want me to do? If that's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it. If that's the truth, I'm going to believe it. We can be in that heaven now. We just got to listen to what the angels are constantly wanting to tell us. Yeah, so that's cool.